Hey, welcome back everybody. Brian from T-Sportline. In this segment of our Cybertruck DIY, PPF, and wrap installation series, we're going to talk about prepping the Cybertruck, pulling off things like the wheel arches, pulling off the side mirrors, and pulling out the window seals. I'm going to walk you through the tools you need and how to do each of one of these prep steps. First things first, you're going to need a Torx bit for part of this job, and the Torx bit comes with our PPF kits and comes with our wrap kits. So that is going to come from us. Now, as far as tools that you need, let's start with a standard tip screwdriver, and one with a smaller tip is best. We're going to use that for prying up some of these push pins. We'll go over this in a minute. So standard screwdriver. Then you need a Phillips screwdriver. Similarly, there are some push pins that we need to use a Phillips to unscrew. Then moving into sockets, you need a 10mm socket, and you're going to couple that with a ratchet and an extension, or you can use a 1/4" driver. So either one of those. And that's going to be for these bolts that hold on some of the side cladding trim. And then finally, you're going to need a 1/4" socket, and that socket is going to work with the bit that we include. And you can use the 1/4" socket on either your ratchet or your nut driver, or if you have a bit driver, you can put the bit right in there. Okay, that's it for tools, guys. Let's go ahead and get into the first piece of cladding, and we'll show you how to take that off. We're going to start with this front fender arch, and the reason we pull this off is the PPF or the wrap is going to extend underneath this, which will give us a really perfect fitment of the film. You won't be able to see that edge. This side cladding comes off fairly easily, goes back on, so that's not a problem. First thing we did was put the truck in high mode, just to make it a little easier to reach this stuff. Now that we're down here, let's start pulling this off. I'm gonna grab the trim on the inside here and just pull it out a little bit, and you're gonna hear it popping, and I'm moving my fingers up and just popping it as we move up. Now, sometimes it takes 2 hands to pop it out, and it's held in with some push pins, so that's how it sounds as you pop it off. We're going to work our way around the whole piece. Okay, the cameras unbolt from the cladding with 2 small Torx-headed screws. Use the smaller Torx bit, which is included in our kit. You're going to carefully unbolt the cameras from the cladding, and the camera will simply stay connected to the truck. You can put the cladding aside for now. One thing I want to note is we do not recommend disconnecting the camera from the wiring harness, as doing so will most likely require a trip to the Tesla service center to access service mode and reset the DAS. You can avoid all this by simply leaving the cameras connected to the truck and unbolting them from the cladding. Let's put this out of the way for now. And we're going to go into pulling off this bracket that holds that trim in place. First, we'll start with our 10mm socket. You can see these bolts with the blue trim on them. You can use your nut driver or a ratchet if needed. And we're just going to go around and unscrew each of these. Next, I'm going to take the Phillips screwdriver, and you're going to see these push pins, and if I unscrew the center, I can pull that out. Another one here. And there's one more up here. Next, we're going to work on the inside, and there's some push pins connecting the fender liner to the bracketry. With our standard screwdriver, you just get underneath the edge of the push pin and pop the center of the pin out, and then you can pull the whole pin out. And be gentle with these plastic pins. Takes a little finagling sometimes. Maybe knock a little of the dirt out of them. But if you're patient, you'll get them all to pop out. Now that we're in here, you can see these push pins. You may want to, on the back side, rotate it until you get the open slot spot where you can get your screwdriver in, and then you just pull your screwdriver to pop it out. Let's show that again. So here's the slot, and that slot could have been up here. So I just rotate it down, screwdriver in, pop that out. Easy. 2 more to go. That does it there. This piece is going to come right off. Before we pull the top off, let me have you come up top. We're going to disconnect the Bluetooth receiver here. So let's get that up close. On the top side, we have to unplug our Bluetooth module before we pull this bracket off. First, you have to unlock it. Just pop this little white piece out. Let me do that again. Get your screwdriver in there and pop that out. And then you're going to come on the back side and just lift up the tab, and then you can pop that off and then pull this off. But let's move on to the back and we'll take that cladding off next. We just finished the front. Both sides are the same. Now we're in the back. They're going to be very similar except for the back over here where the charge port is. This is going to be very similar. We pull this off, we pull the frame out, and then I'm going to show you what to do with the charge door. Let's get into it. Now it's worth noting these bolts back here around the charge door are a little bit longer. Just remember that when we go to put this back together. And I'm going to move up here and pop off the Bluetooth receiver. And the charge door is just going to pull out a little bit like this. No real reason to pull that off. And the same thing back here, gang. You're gonna need to rewash this edge, get all the dirt out of here, have this fully prepped. So that does it for taking off the fender arches. Repeat the same thing on the other side. And then next we're gonna get into removing the mirrors. We're starting inside the driver's door, and we're gonna be removing this seal part here, the bolts that hold the mirror on, and the connector. But first I wanna get the window out of the way. Now for this seal, I'm gonna grab on the inner edge back in here and just peel this out. It's got a couple of push pins that hold it in place. And we've got to remove these 3 bolts. This is where the included Torx bit is put into your 1/4-inch drive and attached to a ratchet. We can break these free and just remove each one of these. Okay, 3 of those coming out. If you've done any wrap or window tint on any other Teslas, you'll quickly realize the Cybertruck has the easiest and fastest removal of side mirrors. I think they're planning ahead for when they can get approval with DOT to go without any mirrors. Up next is going to be the mirror connector. There's a little panel back here with a clip on the top. Just pull the clip down. You can lift this panel cover out to get access to the wire. Then with your screwdriver, you just want to pull this red lock back a little bit, like that. And then we're going to push right on this with my finger right here. And then we're going to pull the connector out. So come in here and pinch that down and pull the connector. It's going to come out like that. So again, you push down on the part that the red clip was locked, push that down, pull that out. Now our mirror is going to be free. We can come out here and lift it off. To remove the mirror, just get a hand under here, you got to wiggle it free, and it pulls straight up and out. You've got the harness that comes with it. Put this in a safe place. I'm gonna put it right on the driver's floor inside the cab. That does it for the mirror. We'll do that on both sides. Now let's get into the window trim. Before we close the door, I'm just gonna fold this seal back in that was behind the mirror so we don't pinch it. Then I'm gonna put the window all the way down. And then this trim on the door window, it pulls back. You just wanna carefully pull it back and slide it. It just slides right off. I'm going to slide it off and up. I worked it free there, and then we're going to carefully pull it out just like that. I'm going to put this right inside the car. Keep each one for each door where it was, and that's it. So we're going to repeat that on all 4 doors. For best results, we recommend removing the frunk light bar before installation so we can roll the edges of our film behind the frunk easier. In our videos, we'll show you how you can tuck the film in between the light bar and the edge instead of removing the light bar in case you aren't comfortable removing the light bar. If you decide to remove the light bar, we will need these additional tools: trim tool or a screwdriver, a ratchet, and a regular 10mm socket, an 8mm socket, preferably a deep well, and an extension for your ratchet and socket set. To get started, we'll pull this cable out of its plastic channel and pop the corner trim panel using our trim tool or screwdriver. Next, we can go to the back side of the frunk and remove the rubber trim that goes all the way across the frunk. This rubber trim is split into two pieces left and right, so we will need to repeat these same steps on the other side of the frunk to remove that trim as well. With the trim removed, now using our deep well 8mm socket and our ratchet, locate the two nuts to remove on the underside of the frunk. Next, we need to locate the 12 grill attachment bolts and remove all 12 using our 10mm socket and ratchet. Note that the grill is still slotted into the frunk, so it won't fall off the truck once the bolts are removed. With the bolts removed, lower the frunk to a comfortable height and begin to slowly lift up on the grill panel until it releases from the frunk. Now that the grill panel is off the truck, we can locate the 13 bolts holding the grill to its support bracket and use our extension and our 10mm socket and ratchet to remove them. Remove the trim piece that runs along the top of the grill by gently pulling it up and out of its clips. Moving back over to the truck now, locate the two bolts holding on the light bar as well as the power connector. Starting with the power connector, slide the pin up to unlock it and then unplug the connector. Now onto the bolts, we'll use our 10mm socket, extension and ratchet to remove the bolts beneath the light bar. With the bolts removed, pull directly out towards yourself to unclip the light bar from the truck. With the light bar removed, we can now slot the grill back into place on the frunk and replace the two corner bolts to hold the frunk in place during the install of film. All right, everybody, hope you enjoyed this video. We'll see you in the next one.